What a weekend. What a weekend. The Toronto Blue Jays not only first in the AL East, but first in the entire American League. Now we wait for the postseason.
You are Locked On Blue Jays, your daily Toronto Blue Jays podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to Locked On Blue Jays. Thank you for making Locked On Blue Jays your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
This episode brought to you by 5 Hour Energy. Enough with boring, flavorless caffeine. It's time to give your caffeine a flavor upgrade with 5 Hour Energy shots. Go to www.5hourenergy.com or Amazon today. As always, I'm Brayden Iwasko. He's Carter First. You can find us on Twitter, Brayden5Iwasko. Carter First, too, as well on Instagram and TikTok at Locked On Blue Jays. Oh, you can follow us on our main Twitter account as well, Locked On Jays. And hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. It's postseason time for the Toronto Blue Jays, so make sure you guys stay up to date with all of your Blue Jays info right here on Locked On Blue Jays. Hit that subscribe button. You guys have been killing it lately. You get your shorts, your podcasts, your live streams, the videos, the whole ordeal. All right, enough of the nonsense. Let's get right into it. The Toronto Blue Jays win the AL East. They are first place in the American League. What a weekend of games. I almost have no hair left. Nutrafol, I'm going to need you because I was pulling out my hair this entire weekend. But what a finish. Alejandro Kirk legacy game. The celebration of all celebrations. Apparently you can drop F-bombs on live TV now. What a weekend, my man. Me and you talked about, I think this was Saturday night. It was my brother's birthday, so happy birthday. My brother, as you guys listen to this, it is his birthday, so happy birthday to him. And we were out, Carter, and having a few drinks and chatting about what the Sunday game could possibly be. I had two screens going, watching the Yankees-Orioles, watching the Jays-Rays, and I had family over. And most of them are Blue Jays fans, except my Nana, who's a Yankees fan. Disgusting. That is unbelievable. I almost didn't let her in my house. But people everywhere were tuning in to see what was going to happen with this game. People that aren't even baseball fans were interested. They're like, this is coming down to the absolute wire. Everybody's pumped up. What a weekend. Me and you had a lot to talk about on Saturday night. A couple of beers in us, maybe got us talking a little bit more. How are you feeling, my man?
I feel great, honestly. Again, I feel like years have been taken off my life at this point, but I'm happy to be where we're at. How could you want it any other way? You got the Yankees competing against you. You got it right down to the wire, right to 162. You got Kevin Gausman on the mound. Not the best stuff, but that didn't even matter because you had an Alejandro Kirk legacy game on that Sunday game. So we're still reveling from that. That's insanity. You brought it up when we were talking about it actually today, was that Alejandro Kirk gave you some vibes a little bit similar to some playoff vibes that we saw in 2015. I thought that was a little crazy of a statement. I thought it was a little bit too far, but that's not disregarding anything that Alejandro did, especially in that first inning. Grand slams are so much fun, man. We got one from Varsho. We thought that was the biggest swing in the season. I think now you got to say the Alejandro Kirk grand slam is the biggest swing of the season. I mean, why have the tiebreaker too if you're not going to use it, right? Number one in the American League East, number one in the American League. Nobody had the Toronto Blue Jays getting there. I didn't even have the Toronto Blue Jays making the playoffs, to be completely honest. Before the season, I had them at 84 wins. Last year, this team had 74 wins. The over-under win totals at the start were 76.5. I think they got up to 78.5. Blew those out of the water. That was not even close whatsoever. Every single time you thought this team was going to start to falter, you were even starting to falter. All of us were. Let's be completely honest. We went through a stretch where 6 out of 7, the Jays looked horrible. And I asked you point blank. I said, "Are you confident that the Jays are going to win the American League East?" And you said on the podcast, "No." And I couldn't even I did disagree with you, but I didn't say you were crazy for having that take. But for me, what I said, kind of stayed true with this every single time we've went on this podcast is, like I said, every single time that you thought the Toronto Blue Jays were out and you thought it was all going to go wrong, they answered the bell. They answered right back and proved everyone wrong once again. The Toronto Blue Jays, here we stand with a huge bye. We've talked about how important this was to the Toronto Blue Jays. Just getting to see the New York Yankees and the Boston Red Sox hopefully beat up on each other will be massive as well. Just absolutely elated for how this 162 went.
Well, and Carter, when you asked me that question, in the back of my head, I assumed that the Yankees are going to sweep the Orioles. And do I believe that the Toronto Blue Jays are going to sweep the Rays? I didn't. And a lot of you are going to hate me in about 2 seconds here. But I get to use it. Probably for the last time this season.
Well, don't say that.
Well, I don't know if you can really call it a sweep.
ALCS
I guess you
sweep?
could. Sure. Okay.
Absolutely,
But I might have to change it up for that, though. But anyway.
Oh, you're going to have to make it like it's loud. You're going to have to make it even louder. And that's what happens in the playoffs.
People are not going to be happy. But here we go. The Blue Jays get the sweep over the Tampa Bay Rays in a massive one to earn themselves first place in the American League. There are so many people that hate that, and I'm going to change it for next year.
Podcast, that was one of the worst things that you ever could have did to me there. I kind of forgot how bad it was. But just going back to like the Yankees thing, like the most obvious thing of all time, right? The Yankees win 8 straight games to end the season off. And like it just makes sense. Like who would have thought the Toronto Blue Jays, you can't really do anything wrong at this point. You looked at the Yankee schedule, you saw the Orioles, you saw the White Sox, you saw the Orioles again. You thought it would be relatively tough for the Toronto Blue Jays. So like looking back at it, makes perfect sense that the Yankees swept the Orioles, swept the White Sox, and put themselves in that position. But I mean, yeah, credit to the Toronto Blue Jays. Like there was a reason that there was a lot of fans, us included, worried about this last ending up stretch. You look at the Yankee schedule, you look at the division rivals that you have to face, you look at the previous 10 seasons against the Tampa Bay Rays, whether it's a meaningful game or not a meaningful game, you always play them tough. And just that ability to sweep the Tampa Bay Rays. Like when I thought I had them winning the AL East still, but I thought it was going to be a 2-1. And I thought somehow the Orioles would be able to steal one from the Yankees. So a crazy stretch for the Toronto Blue Jays. Funny that you win 8 games in a row. You gain a ton of ground in the division, and it all is for naught. And credit to the Toronto Blue Jays for a 4-game stretch where you had to win all 4 of those games. And one of them was against the Boston Red Sox, and you had 3 against the Tampa Bay Rays. Just all the credit in the world is deserving to the Toronto Blue Jays for what they did over 162. It's crazy where we're at now. And I'm honestly grateful for the ALDS and grateful that we get to avoid a wild card series, because imagine playing the Boston Red Sox once again without Kevin Gausman, without Jose Berrios, without Chris Bassitt. You got Garrett Crochet on the mound. You don't have Bichette. We'll have to go into that obviously further on. There's a lot of injuries, a lot of things that were going against the Toronto Blue Jays. So that is massive. I did not have them winning the wild card series, but we'll have to go in to see who they faced in the LDS. But we'll obviously get into the preview there. They have a lot better of a chance, obviously, where they are right now.
Yeah, Carter. There's so much to go into over the weekend. I'm going to start it here, I guess. And we got a lot more to cover. Obviously, we want to get into sort of the post-game celebration, some of the quotes from some of the guys. I know, Carter, you grabbed a few of those. And a whole lot more from the games just to look back. Obviously, we will now have a pretty much full week of coverage coming before the series gets going. So we have a ton to talk about. We're going to really dive deep into what this team is going to look like in the playoffs in future episodes coming up here in this week. So stay tuned for that. But Carter, what I found really interesting was which pitchers they rolled out in 3 what ended up being must-win games, right? You get Shane Bieber, you get Trey Yesavage, and you finish it off with Kevin Gausman. To me, there is a reason why you entrust the biggest 3 games of your season to these 3 guys. Because when push comes to shove and the chips are down, these are the 3 guys. Evidently, this shows me who you have the most faith in. And the ability to then sweep this series and get it done shows me exactly what I need to see, not only from the starting pitching, Carter, this pitching staff in general this weekend, the bullpen, Louis Varland, huge shout out to that guy. Yeah. He is a dog. Mason Fluharty is a dog. Brayden Fisher, which everybody already knew, is a dog. These guys, every single one of them stepped up and did a massive, massive job. But just on the starting pitching, Carter, and their performance in these 3 games, I'll throw it over to you for that.
Yeah, it's funny. You say that these are like the 3 that you would want, and it's probably the 3 that I would want, but you didn't have anyone else available anyway. Like,
that's right.
Chris Bassitt was hurt. Jose Berrios was hurt. Eric Lauer just pitched the day before. Like, that's all you had. It was Trey Yesavage. It was Shane Bieber. I guess you had Max Scherzer, sort of, but again, do you want to throw Max Scherzer in one of these outings? I guess you could have went in that 3rd game, but I'm trusting Kevin Gausman, even though it didn't go well over Max Scherzer. But yeah, like these are the guys that you want in these situations. Trey Yesavage, just some ridiculous stuff once again. But kind of in the Kevin Gausman aspect of it, like overall, very good outings, obviously, from these guys. Trey Yesavage, I think, was the one that kind of stood out. And Kevin Gausman would be the one that you might have a little bit of worry from. So I just kind of wanted to throw that over to you Obviously not a very good stat line from Kevin Gausman. Credit to John Schneider for seeing that, hey, he did not have his best stuff early on and kind of having that quick leash. Because again, this was a must-win game. I get Kevin Gausman is probably your number one playoff starter, but if it's not going well, you don't have any time to screw around. You got to get him out of the game as soon as possible. And then Mason Fluharty comes in, you said, absolute dog, comes in, strikes out a hitter, bases low. Like, it's just, that's a key moment in the game. Like, we talk a lot about it. The big moments in the game don't necessarily have to happen in the ninth inning. It can happen in the second inning. It can happen in the fifth inning. It can happen in the seventh inning. And that was a massive at-bat and a massive sequence by Mason Fluharty to get that strikeout, to get Kevin Gausman out of that inning and limit some damage much more. But with Kevin Gausman, did anything that you saw kind of worry you for a potential playoff start coming up here?
No, not really. I don't have any worry about Kevin Gausman seeing the lights or anything like that. It's just, I think it was one of those that he's been so good. And I think really this makes me feel strangely better, because it's like, oh, maybe he got his not best outing out of the way, because guys are going to have this. Kevin Gausman's been on an absolute tear, pitching so well that eventually there was going to be a game that shook him, that threw him off, that he didn't get his best stuff. So now I'm sort of thinking, did he get that game out of the way? And are we going to go back and see now again prime Kevin Gausman in the first playoff game? I think that's a very big possibility. There's a reason he's my number one guy, is because he has the ability to show up in big moments. The ceiling is so high with Kevin Gausman, right? We talked about the ceiling with Trey Yesavage being so high that it is there. Kevin Gausman's on another level. This is a guy that's been there, done it in big moments. So Kevin Gausman, to me, Carter, is without a doubt still my game one starter, and I really have full faith in it here. I don't think this outing shook me at all. I think this seemed like a playoff game, right? Yes. He goes, 3 2/3 innings. He gets hit around a little bit. But this was a playoff atmosphere game. The pressure was on. It was all there. And I think for a lot of these guys this series, they got a little bit of a taste of it. And I think they'll be rolling into that ALDS ready to roll. Trey Yesavage, a guy that we were worried, how is he going to fare in a playoff atmosphere? Well, you saw him fare in a playoff atmosphere. That's what this was, a team fighting for their life to make sure that they can keep that top spot. For every other guy sitting on the bench that may be out until whenever, right? The ALDS. They were doing that for each other that game. This was a playoff atmosphere, and these guys all showed up. So this series made me way more confident in what this team's ability will be in big moments, right? You're talking about a couple guys stepping up. Nathan Lucas, Alejandro Kirk, Daulton Varsho, George Schneider, Addison Barger. I feel really good right now. And I think that this is the exact way you'd want to go into a playoff series. You want to be carrying all the momentum. You want to be the team on a hot streak. And right now, you could for sure say this Toronto Blue Jays team in 4 games is looking like they can do some damage.
See, I like that Kevin Gausman spin zone. Get the bad out before the playoffs. It's good, just, get that tough start, get the rough outing out, so you can just be an absolute degenerate dog and just go out and absolutely annihilate divisional opponents, because that's who you're going to have in the ALDS. So yeah, I like that spin zone for Kevin Gausman. I'm not worried about him either. I mean, it's like, you look at the last 2.5 months, it's been unbelievable. You're going to have the blow up start. Hopefully, again, he did get it out of the way. And if you see stuff like that happening, John Schneider in the playoffs is going to be a very quick pull, very quick leash. So I don't see it really spiraling out of control. It's just one of those things with John Schneider that he's got to be able to be in this managerial role, in this position. I get you're a player's guy, but at this point, you've got to do what's best for the team. And you got to you still have to manage these relationships at the end of the day. But it's the playoffs. And these guys know that they want to win. You're going to do everything you possibly can to win. So the ego kind of has to go out the window. I think a lot of these players obviously do understand that. But I just wanted to go in the Trey Yesavage start. 5 innings, scoreless ball. Ridiculous stuff. Touched 97 on one of his pitches to get a massive strikeout. That fired me the hell up. Trey Yesavage. In the ALDS, you're going to have the New York Yankees. You're going to have the Boston Red Sox. Those are 2 teams that I'm not seeing Trey Yesavage before. So there's a lot of uncertainty around Trey Yesavage, and there's a lot of unfamiliarity, obviously, with the way that he releases the ball. So that's not something you can pick up right away. That is something that you're going to have to kind of get accustomed to. So I think that's a big advantage for the Toronto Blue Jays. And this is the guy that we'll talk about, obviously, farther on along this week as we get into some of our other episodes. This is a guy that's for sure going to be on the playoff roster. We'll just have to see kind of what his role will be on this playoff roster. But the swing and miss is there. Like the upside, like you said, is definitely there for a guy like Trey Yesavage. But just going into the last starting pitcher of the week that we haven't talked about yet, Shane Bieber, kind of just like the typical Shane Bieber start that you would expect from this guy. Like, again, 5 innings pitched, 5 hits, 2 earned runs, 3 strikeouts, 2 walks. If you give me that in the playoffs, I'm going to be more than fine with that. Shane Bieber for me, a guy that you trust, a guy that they brought in to give you some upside, and that's what he has been doing, especially with these injuries. This Shane Bieber trade has been a huge success for the Toronto Blue Jays and very important to their success down the stretch. So you have Chris Bassitt out. You have Max Scherzer kind of pitching all over the place. You don't really know what you're going to get from him. Chris Bassitt being out a little bit in this stretch as well. Having Shane Bieber there to kind of provide some stability in this bullpen, even though you did have Eric Lowry, I guess you could have had Alek Manoah pitch, but you probably didn't want to, obviously. And then you have Bowden Francis. Yes, you had some other options, but to have Shane Bieber there, a very good option, a playoff starter caliber option down the stretch when you are fighting for the American League in totality. Exactly what you want to see from Shane Bieber.
100%. It was a saving grace a little bit. I think with how this all played out, I think a very, very smart move here.
That was my must-win game too. So thank you, Shane, for starting off the week right.
That's right. There you go. A lot more we want to talk about still. Obviously, some of the post-game shenanigans that went on, some of the player quotes. We got to talk a little bit about Bo Bichette and what his future may be with this team heading into the playoffs. We will talk about Alejandro Kirk, the bullpen, and Carter. One more thing, you brought up John Schneider and his managerial decisions and having to be quick. Well, I want to talk about that right as we come back because an interesting point I want to make after this short break.
Today's episode is sponsored by 5 Hour Energy. Caffeine just got a flavor upgrade. 5 Hour Energy shots deliver tasty caffeine in 17 bold flavors. Each 2-ounce shot packs the caffeine of a premium 12-ounce cup of coffee, plus B vitamins and nutrients with 0 sugars and 0 crashes. What I love most is that they are very portable. They have big taste in a tiny shot. You can really take them anywhere. It's super convenient, and you can get the boost whenever you do need it. I have been all over the blue raspberry, especially in school. Like when you have, it's kind of, a little bit depressing in there with the lights. I was being outside all summer back kind of in like the depressing laboratory lights. So getting that little bit of an energy shot, kind of getting that a little bit of an extra energy boost when you don't have, the most enticing views around you to keep you kind of mentally sharp. I have definitely been saved a time or two by 5 Hour Energy's tasty caffeine shots, specifically the blue raspberry one, but they have a ton of other good flavors as well. Enough with the boring, flavorless caffeine. It's time to give your caffeine a flavor upgrade with 5 Hour Energy shots. Get the flavor you love or be bold and try something new in store or online at www.5hourenergy.com or Amazon today.
Today's episode also brought to you by Zippix. Carter has talked a lot to you guys about Zippix. Whether you're looking for a nicotine satisfaction or an energy boost, Zippix has you covered with their nicotine and caffeine-infused toothpicks. I've used them on the pod before. I love the little boost of caffeine it gives you, without having to, hammer an energy drink or use coffees. It's a great little diversion. For nicotine users, Zippix provides a discreet way to satisfy cravings and the hand-to-mouth habit without vaping or smoking. Zippix can be a helpful tool as you work to reduce your dependence on vaping. Available in 6 great flavors with 2 milligram and 3 milligram nicotine options. And if you need energy without the crash, their caffeine toothpicks are a game changer. Go to zippixtoothpicks.com, use code LOCKEDON for 10% off your first order. Must be 21 or older to order. Warning, nicotine is an addictive chemical. That's zippixtoothpicks.com, promo code LOCKEDON. Zip more, smoke less with Zippix toothpicks. So, Carter, continuing on, the point I wanted to make in regards to John Schneider sort of goes to something that we've seen all season, and it's a little bit the plug and play, this guy for this scenario, this guy for that scenario. Davis Schneider, in his at-bats and knowledge of the strike zone, ended up coming in really big here because I don't think he was, swinging and making a ton of great contact, but his knowledge of the zone and being able to fight at-bats. And then John Schneider goes out and changes him out for Gimenez as soon as they bring in the bullpen. And at the end of the day, Carter, I think that's something John Schneider's been really good at, is making decisions on where to put guys at what time. Again, there's some question marks we have in regards to the bullpen timing of when to bring guys in. But in terms of the lineup, John Schneider's made some really, really good decisions and knowledgeable decisions. So can he continue that in the playoffs? I pray to God, yes. But you know what? I think over the last 2 years, you've seen John Schneider really develop as a manager. And I'm not saying he's the kingdom come, manager, best manager of all time, nothing like that. He's had his mistakes, he's made them, and he probably will make more. But I think he has grown a lot this season, and to see him celebrating with the team and the guys he's come up coaching throughout the years and managing throughout the years, it really was a nice little moment there for him.
Being a manager is insanely tough. Like, I don't think people give John Schneider a lot of credit for just how hard that his job actually is. So there's a lot of things that go into it. Hindsight is 2020. I think that is the biggest thing. A lot of the time, like, you could throw your best guy, and if it doesn't go well, especially in the playoffs, like, every single decision that's made has the magnifying glass even closer to it. So if there's a mistake, you could say, again, it's all hindsight, a lot of it. Sometimes you do have like those obvious ones, with like the Jose Berrios one. Pretty much everyone in Toronto Blue Jays media is pretty much on the same page. I think you can kind of know that probably wasn't the greatest move. But it's, for example, if like they had Brendan Little in and they throw in Seranthony Dominguez and he gives up a home run, people might not like that. But like Seranthony Dominguez is one of those guys that's probably going to be in your circle of trust. So with John Schneider, like, he has made the progressions and we have seen it get better. There is, again, a little bit of worry in me just because I think previous history with the Toronto Blue Jays and just with how things have gone bad over the recent history. So obviously that's going to be a little bit in your head when you're looking at John Schneider and you're looking at this ALDS series that is going to come upon us. But that's not really something I'm worried about. Like, I'm not really worried about John Schneider being the one to throw a playoff game for the Toronto Blue Jays. I'm more worried if like Vladimir Guerrero Jr. is going to show up. I'm more worried about if Kevin Gausman is going to be able to pitch. I'm more worried about that clutch hit, the defense. Like, there's little things that, John Schneider obviously has an impact on the game, but at this point, like, your manager can really only do so much. So for the people that are going to, try to blame John Schneider for like that random bullpen decision that might happen in the 8th inning, I think you got to, relax a little bit, maybe ease off and start to blame the players at this point. So you're in the playoffs, this team, like the manager and John Schneider and Ross Atkins. John Schneider obviously is the manager, but with Ross Atkins as well, like, they can't really do anything for the Toronto Blue Jays anymore. Yes, John Schneider can set these guys up for success still, but they aren't the ones in the box. They aren't the ones, throwing the pitches. The players are going to have to show up at some point. Yes, we don't want John Schneider to make an absolute bonehead decision. We haven't really seen a lot of those this year at all. So I'm pretty confident in what John Schneider is going to be able to do. As long as he continues to, just set guys up for success, I don't think that's going to change at all. You're still going to see David Schneider against lefties, Ernie Clement a lot against lefties, Miles Straw against the righties, everything he has been doing. If he continues to do that, that's how we've gotten here. So you can't really be mad about the process.
No, exactly. And that's sort of what I was getting at and alluding to. But there always will be those worries, especially when it comes to managerial decisions. I mean, you could go up and down the league and probably find a fan base. I don't know if any fan base is like over the moon with their manager all the time. It's going to happen. But hopefully it doesn't happen in the biggest moment.
It's the same thing as like your closing pitcher. Like, when you're not, it's very easy to hate your closing pitcher because he's the last guy that's going to go out there. And if he blows the game, that's the last thing you remember. So with John Schneider, like, you're not going to remember like the good decisions he's made. You're going to remember that one bad one that stands out. So that's why I said, give him a little bit more of a break. I think the overall, the Toronto Blue Jays media can be a little bit more lenient for at least for John Schneider this year. I'm not going to say for like the entire Toronto Blue Jays organization, because there's definitely times that you can be critical about that organization. But one guy that we talked about, obviously, off the top, the guy that everyone has been talking about up to this point, and for good reason. I mean, Alejandro Kirk, legacy game, literally at the greatest time he possibly could have had it. The grand slam, the 2-run shot, the double, 10 total bases, 6 RBIs. And this is from a guy that was not playing that good of baseball, that was not swinging the bat that well. We talked a lot last week about guys like Addison Barger, guys like Daulton Varsho starting to falter a little bit, guys like Alejandro Kirk, these middle of the order guys that are going to have to come through in these big spots, and they haven't necessarily been playing that well, and you're going to need them to show up. And we saw Addison Barger have a big home run, and then specifically Alejandro Kirk, obviously we had Daulton Varsho in that last game of the Red Sox series. Alejandro Kirk, some say saved the season. I mean, that signing, we'll keep going back to this. It's going to keep looking better and better every single year. When Alejandro Kirk is swinging the bat well, this guy looks like one of the best players in all of baseball. Because you see the defense, you see the contact ability, you see his zone swing rates, like you see just his ability to navigate the strike zone. The issue with Alejandro Kirk is when the hitting doesn't go well. He starts hitting the ball on the ground, and that's when you start to see the speed being a little bit of an issue. But if Alejandro Kirk can continue to hit gaps and continue to hit the ball hard and hit line drives, that's exactly what you're going to need in the middle of the order in the playoffs, especially with Bichette's availability still being uncertain.
Dude, Alejandro Kirk, I mean, and you know what? He gets to the 15 home run mark.
And then he got the curtain call, too. I think that was first one of the year.
Unbelievable. They bring him back out. This was an all-time moment for me. When I think back to all of my Blue Jays memories, I think the Alejandro Kirk grand slam to send this team to first place in the American League in the last game of the season with the Yankees nipping at their heels. It's going to be one that will always stand out. And now this season with how they finished. The speeches towards the end of the game, Carter, when he was brought out and talking to Hazel May, gave a quote as well. The recognitions from the fans, I think they understand. When Alejandro Kirk signed that contract, and we were talking about a value contract, right? We said this is probably one of the best contracts that the Toronto Blue Jays have put together, and I can't even know when, to be honest with you. It's just fantastic to see him actually have success. A guy that's had a really great season, and you really didn't want this season, this regular season anyway, to end on a bad note for Alejandro Kirk because he's been so great. And then for him to come up in the biggest moment of the season really shows you what this guy's made of and why he's going to be a staple with this team for many years to come.
Yeah, it's very excited to see that Alejandro Kirk is locked up with the Toronto Blue Jays for a significant period of time. Because we didn't even talk about his ability to navigate baseball games. Like when Trey Yesavage started, do you think Trey Yesavage was calling that baseball game? Who has more familiarity with the hitters in that baseball game? Alejandro Kirk, who's been playing in the major leagues the entire season and for many seasons previous, or Trey Yesavage, who just got drafted last year? So you got to give Alejandro Kirk some credit there as well. But on the topic of credit, right now, it feels like nothing can really go wrong for the Toronto Blue Jays. Maybe this will kind of wind down a little bit as we get further on throughout the week. But this is part of the Toronto Blue Jays that definitely needs some recognition. And it's honestly the bullpen over these last two series. In September, that was our biggest worry by far. It was, oh no, we have literally nobody that we can trust. Like Jeff Hoffman, maybe Sir Anthony Dominguez, that was a big role. Is that guy going to be our closer? Brandon Little was nowhere to be found. Yariel Rodriguez, Brayden Fisher was the savior, but he got sent down to AAA. It was just a lot of chaos was going on with the Toronto Blue Jays. But in the last the 6 games that were going to matter against the Boston Red Sox, against the Tampa Bay Rays, they really showed up over that stretch. 29 2/3 inning pitched over those 6 games. They gave up 9 hits, only 4 earned runs, 34 strikeouts, 14 walks. Maybe you want to see a little bit lower of the walks, but a 1.23 ERA over that 6-game stretch. It's pretty good. I'm not complaining. I don't know how you can complain about that. That's probably one of the best bullpen ERAs over that stretch and in the biggest point of the season. This bullpen's starting to get hot at the right time, and a lot of guys are deserve credit for that. Mason Fluharty was probably the first guy I'm thinking of from this weekend. Again, in that the third game of the series, comes in, massive strikeout, pitches 2 innings in the first game of the series as well. Brayden Fisher, we've given him his flowers a lot on this podcast for good reason. Brandon Little starting to look a little bit better. Sir Anthony Dominguez, the stuff's disgusting as well. Again, a lot to be excited about for the bullpen, and a very good time to start putting it all together when you're going into an AL division series, no longer an AL East race.
That's right. Wow, isn't that fun to say?
Yeah,
right?
It's weird. We've been talking about the AL East race. I keep saying raced for some reason. Race since July. July 3rd was the last time the Toronto Blue Jays were not in first place in the American League East. Crazy stat.
Crazy to think that there wasn't a dip in there, right? That they didn't fall below, that, nobody was battling back, and then they, maybe do a big swing
the Yankees
somewhere.
just fell off a cliff for a while there, and then
That
they
helps.
battled back a little too late. That's what some people are saying. Maybe beat the Toronto Blue Jays one time in a 4-game series on Canada Day weekend.
That was a great series. Oh, my God.
Talking about Grand Slams, George Springer. There's another one.
That's right.
2 from Varsho, 1 from Alejandro Kirk. You got a George Springer Grand Slam. Grand Slams. I mean, theme of the Toronto Blue Jays. Remember when Lourdes Gurriel used to take Grand Slams for this team pretty much every single time he came up with runners on base?
I barely remember that, Carter. That feels like lifetimes ago.
A little bit of a different team now, a little bit of a different squad. Hey, 2015 was the last time that we watched an ALDS series.
Yeah. Dude, I'm blown away. I'm so excited, man. I'm trying to be on the podcast and break everything down, but I'm sitting here and I'm just vibrating. I'm just that excited and ready to go. And to think that we have a 4 or 5 day wait here is just gonna eat at me. But I do.
Then we get to watch the Red Sox and the Yankees absolutely beat up on each other. Let's get 18 innings in the first game. I want their bullpen's arms to fall off. I want that to go 3 games and then to just beat the living crap out of each other. Yep. That is the best case scenario for the Toronto Blue Jays. And also, Garrett Crochet, Max Fried, if it goes 3 games, even in general, if with the 2 games, they're not going to be ready game 1. And that's a huge advantage, obviously, for the Toronto Blue Jays being able to roll out their starting pitchers exactly how they want to.
And so, Carter, we've talked a lot about what this team has done this weekend. And we have to, as much as I wanted to wait a little bit, this came out and we have to talk about this. It's in regards to Bo Bichette and what is going to happen with him. We said, hopefully you can get to the ALDS and you can get Bo Bichette back for that series. We do want to let everybody know sort of what the update is there and some of the things it said and maybe what we can take away from that. So we're going to take a break. We're going to come back. We're going to talk about that as well, just about some of the celebrations that went on. Carter's got a couple quotes from a couple of guys. I don't think we can say George Springer's because there was a few F-bombs dropped on live television. What an amazing moment. Like just a little bit of a culture shock. I don't know if culture shock's the right word, but like everybody in my house watching the baseball game was like, did you just say that? Like they just won. Let it happen. They just won.
Yeah, you deserve it. I mean, when you win the American League, I think you can almost say whatever you want. Obviously, there is some things that are over the line, but I'm not too worried about an F-bomb.
That's right. We'll take a break. We'll come back. We'll talk all that.
Today's episode is also sponsored by Nutrafol. You've probably seen a million ads for hair growth products and thought, sure, like that actually works. There's so many products out there and it's hard to know which ones are actually going to do anything. And that's why you should give Nutrafol a closer look. Nutrafol is the #1 dermatologist recommended hair growth supplement brand trusted by over 1.5 million people. And it's not just the hype. This is a supplement clinically tested that targets the root causes of thinning and shedding with a proactive approach. Honestly, after this last week of Blue Jays baseball, we probably all could use a little bit of Nutrafol. If you guys are having some shedding or hair loss problems, Nutrafol is definitely the way to go. Whether you are at work or with friends or even just getting ready in the morning, Nutrafol gives you more confidence in your daily routine. It's super simple, just 4 pills. I usually just take these with meals. Makes it a lot easier, and it's very convenient and very discreet that you can take whether you're at work or around with friends or even by yourself as well. So you can see thicker, stronger hair with less shedding in just 3 to 6 months using Nutrafol. For a limited time, Nutrafol is offering Locked On MLB listeners $10 off your first month subscription and free shipping when you go to Nutrafol.com and enter the promo code Locked On MLB. That's Nutrafol.com, promo code Locked On MLB.
So, Carter, continuing on, you know what? There was a lot of reactions that have come from the players, obviously, after the big win. A lot of comments made, really great stuff. We're going to dive into that stuff a little bit more tomorrow because we do have a lot of episodes that we will be able to talk about a bunch of stuff and get into more detail. But something we have to talk about is the quote that came directly from Bo Bichette, Carter. And you caught something in that you wanted to bring up for a certain reason. I won't spoil it. I'll let you get right into the quote.
So this is something I picked up from watching the Toronto Blue Jays doing their celebrations. This is when Hazel May was going around, just interviewing everyone, getting soaked by beer. She did one with Vladimir, I think with George Springer, pretty much everybody in there. But she went to Bo Bichette. She was asking him just how this recent stretch has been, how they've been in September, and how he just views the playoffs. And this is kind of what he went into saying. He said, "These guys are easy to root for. I'm just pumped and excited to watch them do their thing." And the word that I kind of picked up was watch. Like, Bo, you're supposed to be playing. You're supposed to be a part of this team. You're supposed to be right in the mix of things. I know the ALDS, like, it was a little bit, like, that was far-fetched that he was going to be back at that time. It always, at least for us, and we talked a lot about this off camera. I'm going to talk about it a lot coming up this week as well. There hasn't really been a lot of positive news. Just a little bit of cage work. He's not running at all. He's not doing live at-bats. Not a lot of positive news. And the ALDS is in a week. So I just can't imagine that Bo Bichette is going to be ready. And I think he kind of alluded to that by saying that he is going to be able to watch and root for them. I think hopefully he just means the ALDS, but we need Bo Bichette back as soon as possible. And that quote specifically does not make that seem like a good sign, at least for the ALDS.
No, dude, it seems a little terrifying, right? This was sort of the whole point of us really wanting to make sure that they get this bye. So it maybe gives Bo Bichette enough time to get back. And I think Bo doesn't even have to be at 100%. I think if Bo Bichette's at 80%, he goes out there and plays. I think if he's at 75%, he goes out there and tries to play because they want his bat in the lineup. But if he can't get to the point where he can run down the bases, then it's pretty much a no-go. So this is going to be a story we're going to have to follow sort of throughout this week to see what happens. We realistically might not get even an update or any information until Thursday or Friday. We'll have to wait and see if it comes down to the weekend and we finally find out something about Bo Bichette. We'll throw up a TikTok or a short or reel or whatever they're called to sort of inform you guys and let you guys know sort of what's happening. But I'm assuming that we will get some info getting closer and closer to the date, probably around the time where they would announce their starters. So we'll have to wait and see. But yeah, not great news here in Blue Jays community after sort of a great day. You got to sort of be able to, and that's sort of what we did here, Carter, was sort of pick out a little bit of a problem. Now we've seen this team and their ability to win without Bo Bichette, but can you do that on the biggest stage in baseball? We'll have to wait and see, I guess.
See, another thing that didn't really like sit too well with me was that, again, everyone else is running and celebrating. I'm not expecting Bo Bichette to go full on sprint, but it looked like it was a little bit of like a ginger leisure walk. Like it didn't look like it was the most comfortable thing, even with him walking out there to celebrate. So I don't want to just spew negativity right now, but this is a guy that, I mean, he obviously matters. And we've seen the difference with Bo Bichette in the lineup compared to out of the lineup. So hopefully the tides can turn and hopefully he can make some progression very quickly. And even if he can come back in any sort of role, that would be beneficial. Like even if he is DH, again, like you'd have some other issues. Where does George Springer and Anthony Santander play? You're going to have Anthony Santander in the outfield at that point. And then if Bo Bichette can't run, I mean, is it even worth it? So there's so much that you're going to have to like kind of consider with the Bo Bichette stuff. Again, you really want him back, but if he's not going to be 100%, he's not going to be able to, help produce for this team and be productive. It's not like you don't want 25%, 40% Bo Bichette that, he's going to come back and hit 200. Like you want Bo Bichette to be healthy and ready to go. So again, you just got to hope that the luck can kind of follow the Toronto Blue Jays way with this one.
Yeah. A lot more to talk about throughout the rest of this week. It's going to be so fun. Me and Carter are locked in. We're going to try to, get as much out to you guys as humanly possible. You'll see us for this next week, breaking things down, getting ready, teeing up the playoffs, not just for the Blue Jays, but obviously we'll give you guys a larger picture in the coming days as well of where everybody stands, what the series are going to be at. Hopefully we'll get some guests for you guys as well on here, maybe a Skylar Peters, Dallin Wilton return. We'll have to wait and see. But hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. Leave us a comment. How were you watching the game? How did you feel about everything? Please let us know. Shoot us a comment on Twitter or Instagram or wherever else. We're always happy to talk with you guys about sort of everything going on in Blue Jays land. Carter, it's been a long day. A lot of baseball this weekend. A little bit of a break. A little bit of a break for the team. A little bit of a break for us before we hit the ground running in the playoffs. Thanks again so much for watching, everybody, and sticking with us the entire season. And we're not going anywhere. We're still got 5 episodes every day or every week, and we'll be here all off season as well. So stay tuned to Locked On Blue Jays.